What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the FPL video. Today I'm going to be going through the best top 10 value players for the FPL season so far for this season 2021-2022. The game's just launched, so there's a long pre-season and the Euros are still taking place, so obviously there will be transfers, more players may join, which obviously I can update later on before the season begins. So I thought, you know what, we've got to start off with the season. We've got the players intact that we have already. They're probably going to remain mostly the same, so there's the odd transfer that may come in and I feel that they're a good value. So I can make a video of that later. So what we'll do now is I'm going to go through the top 10 after me looking and reviewing the game on how I believe that the prices that players have been priced at and what I believe they are the best value for you to add to your squad to make sure you can maximise and spread your funds correctly and you can get the best scores and the best score and be the best manager for FPL at the end of the season. Now, before we begin, if you're here for the first time, welcome to my channel, FPL INKLING. My name is Mo. I've been launching these videos for a couple of weeks now for the new season, and also I've been doing it at the end of the last season. So my channel's fairly new, so welcome if you've come for the first time. If you're coming back and reviewing my content once again, welcome back. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, guys, hit the subscribe button. Help me increase my subscribers and grow my channel. I really appreciate all the love and support and the kind words that people have given me over the last couple of months. Also, if you like the video, hit that like button. In addition, if you want to get the latest notifications for my content, please hit that notification icon and you'll be getting the notifications as soon as I release my content. So let's not waste any further time and get stuck in. So the team you have on my screen is my latest draft for my FPL team, which can change. I'm looking to create more potential drafts for the game and to basically see which best squad I can create. But overall, at the moment, this is my draft for now. So we'll start with the top 10 players that I believe are the best value thus far for the game being released. So we'll start across the kind of like fielder formation. So we're going to go through goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders and forwards. So let's start from the back. So let's start from the goalkeeper. So for me, I think the best value goalkeeper that's been listed so far in this game for the FPL is Robert Sanchez. Now, he's the goalkeeper for Brighton. Didn't play the whole season last season, but when he did come in, he did a damn fine job. So let's go through a bit of the background statistics. So he played 2,430 minutes, so that's not the full season. And he got 101 points with 10 clean sheets in 27 games. So if you work it out, he started 27 full games for Brighton and he averaged 3.74 points per game. Now, for me, I think that's really impressive for someone who plays in a squad like Brighton, who literally are going to, be defensive for most of the game, kind of be attacked due to kind of like the defensive fragilities. They only conceded 27 goals, and I've seen some of his really good saves video on the FPL app itself, and he actually made some really outstanding saves. He got 8 bonus points, which is actually really good considering he only played 27 games. So it shows that he has a real importance to not only Brighton as a team, but your squad as well, because he'll be helpful in terms of, not spending too much budget on a goalkeeper, which is kind of like the mantra of FPL. So if you hear most experts across the game who've played this game for a very long time, they usually recommend that you should not go for a premium goalkeeper who's priced at around 6 mil. So for example, like an Alisson or an Edison, because if you look at the kind of disparity in points, they'll probably get around anywhere between the 160 average, so about 140 to 180. I've never seen anything higher for a goalkeeper, but if you look at it from that perspective, yes, they have the kind of advantage of keeping more clean sheets. However, if you look at it from like a FPL point of view, the points you get for saves, so every 3 saves a goalkeeper will get 1 point. So you can imagine how many saves a goalkeeper like Sanchez would make. So you can see from the 27 games he's got 66 saves that he's made. So if you divide that by 3, you're looking at that's 22 points. So that's 1/5, almost 20% of his points, or over 20% of his points basically came from just his saves. Now we can compare that to someone like an Edison. Again, he's got 66 saves as well, but he's played, as you can see, the whole season. So he's played 38 games. So if we can look at that from like a perspective of a whole season, maybe he would have scored around 80 saves. maybe even 90 saves if we go by probability. So again, that is something that you can have a look at as well. And the highest scoring goalkeeper last season, as you can see, Martinez had 142 saves, so he got well over 60 points just for the saves he made. So let's go back to Sanchez himself. Why I think he'll add value: A, he's got a high ownership, so a lot of managers are actually backing him, including myself, that he will get the points, and he's going to be a regular, so why not get him in your squad straight up? So for me, he is definitely worth value, and if he was to play the whole season, I definitely believe he'll probably get around anywhere between 130 to 150 points. That's really good return for a goalkeeper that's valued at £4.5 million this season. And at number 2, sticking with Brighton, I'm actually going to go for Taric Lamptey. Now, there's a bit of confusion around him in terms of his last season's performance, but I think what we need to do is just give a bit of a refresher and a background around how he did, why he played so few minutes, and the points he did score. So if you're new to the game and you're looking at Taric Lamptey and you're seeing his ownership at around nearly 20%, you're probably thinking to yourself, this player only achieved 35 points and only played a handful of games in terms of minutes as well. He got 3 assists and a goal, but that was at the start of the season. So let me go through some background stats with you guys and why I believe he's a really good value for players. So firstly, he's really offensive. He likes to get forward. He likes to be part of the kind of like front line. He likes to put crosses in and even take a shot when he gets an opportunity himself. But if we had to look at his points per game, now for me, I use a stat called points per game. So what that's going to be is kind of like an outline of what you're kind of anticipating from a player across the season. But in terms of Taric Lamptey, so I can tell you, last season, if you look at his points per game, he got 3.55. He only got 2 clean sheets, but again, he only played, as you can see, 887 minutes. So he's looking at less than 10 games he's played fully for the club. And near the end of the season, I don't think he fully recovered from his injuries. He had a hamstring injury throughout the season, and he kind of came on, played about 50, 55, 60, maybe 70 minutes, or vice versa. He probably came off the bench after 65, 70 minutes and played only a handful of minutes. But I generally believe this season moving forward, he's probably going to be reliable for Brighton. He's going to give you good attacking returns. And, if you want to spread your budget along your back line, as a 4.5 mil, I think he's probably one of the, along with one or two other defenders who I will talk about in this video, I think he's definitely worth the value of what he's been priced at. I think if they priced him at 5 mil, I probably wouldn't have thought he was good value. But at 4.5 mil for the player, for the team he plays for, and the returns you're potentially going to get, I think that's a really good signing and someone to have on your bench, or maybe even consider. That's why I have chosen Taric Lamptey. And at number 3, we're going to look at Wesley Fofana. So let's find him under Leicester. Sorry guys, if I keep looking over to the left, I have another laptop screen which I'll refer to as well. So let's go to Fofana. So Wesley Fofana, again, he only played 2,260 minutes last season, 71 points. So let's have a look at his stats. So he's got in around 3.55 points per game. For my personal opinion, he's owned by 28% of managers. So along with them, I have also seen potential within him. And obviously with Leicester now playing in a European competition and, with the kind of structure that they have in terms of their defensive unit. So they've probably got Sayuncu, other Castagna players in defence that I believe that are really well gelled. Johnny Evans is in there as well, and obviously with Schmeichel in goal, I think they're a really good unit and well knit. And you've got Brendan Rodgers as a manager. Yes, defensively they can be quite fragile, but do you know what? I think for the price he's got, and he's not. His attacking numbers only say 1 assist last season, but he actually does get into some really good positions, and he probably may not go as forward as many other wing backs. Or defenders, but I think generally he's got some really good potential and future, and he could be like one of those hidden gems, so he's really worth considering for this. That's why I've chosen him to review and include. So he's in my draft mind at the moment. I haven't included him in because I've gone for more premium defenders at this moment, but if I was to kind of take some budget or free up some budget for other parts of my squad, then maybe downgrading one of my defenders from 5.5 to Fofana will actually be a decision I may consider and I may even implement. So that's why I've included Fofana himself in this video. So the next player we're going to be going for is a midfielder, And now for me, this guy had a great end to last season, and I have really high hopes and aspirations for him. I am considering him in a few of my drafts, but I haven't included him in my draft just yet. So potentially he is on my watch list, and he may indeed get into my final squad, and that is Rafinha himself. So he's owned by around 28% of managers already. So there's around 650,000 managers or players that had already signed up. I think that went up to around 690 when I looked at earlier. So almost 700,000 people have actually registered for the game, and he's owned by 28% of managers. So he got a total of 133 points last season. So his points per game, he was looking at around 5.07, which is actually a really good return for a player who you're investing £6.5 million in. I think that's a really good investment. He'll get minutes. He probably won't be rotated. And I think, generally he kind of leads the kind of attacking moves for Leeds themselves. He's always part of their kind of movement, links up really well with players like Bamford, Dallas and Jack Harrison. So that's why I've considered Rafinha in my best value players, because obviously you want to spread your funds. So yeah, you'll have your premiums like Salah, Bruno Fernandes, Raheem Sterling, Mane, Kevin De Bruyne, Son. You'll have these kind of players who, you'll have that premium, most of your budget kind of invested in those players, but you need to balance out the squad. You need to have a good spread of funds, so this guy will actually allow you to do that. So that's why I believe he's actually a really good value for player. And obviously Leeds aren't going to back down with Bielsa, so again, you have a really good attacking return sense. He got 6 goals and 10 assists last season, which is actually really good considering he only played nearly 2,358 minutes. So he didn't even play every single game, and that's nearly a return pretty much every other game. So he's done pretty well, and that's why I have high hopes for him, and that's why I've included him in my best value video for this one. And the next player we're going to move on to is from the same team last season, but he's still listed as a Man City player. I think that we'll soon have him transferred over to Leeds, because I believe they're looking to kind of complete their deal for around £13 million for Jack Harrison. Now, Jack Harrison, for me, he was definitely a hidden gem of last season. 160 points, even included in the City team, he's got the highest points. Now, I know he wasn't part of the Pep rotation, but generally he did play pretty much most of the season for his club Leeds, and he got 18 returns with 8 goals and 10 assists. Now, if we look at his underlying stats again, he's pretty close to Rafinha, 5.06 points per game. He's involved with kind of like set pieces and like free kicks, indirect free kicks, maybe corners as well. So that's someone worth considering. I think he is going to be a fascinating player to watch if they can kind of live up to the same kind of expectations and performances as last season for Leeds. It can only get better. And I think, once he's fully kind of like committed to the club, and, with the Bielsa model and the kind of ethos and that kind of positive attitude that the team of Leeds possesses, this guy is definitely going to be worth considering. I may even consider putting Jack Harrison and Rafinha in my drafts in one of them. I even may start both of them just to spread the budget, because they are literally so well priced and they're good value at 6 mil for what he's given at 18 returns. That is not bad for a player who plays week in, week out. So at number 6, I'm going to choose from my beloved club, Manchester United, Mason Greenwood. Now, Mason Greenwood had a bit of a kind of like a rough season last season. He was obviously involved in that whole breach of the COVID bubble on international duty with Phil Foden, so he kind of had that impact of, that kind of like psychological pressure, and he didn't really get much minutes at the early stages of the season, but he really came good after the new year, and he really started to put in some really good performance at the last stages of this season. So currently he's selected by just over 4% of FPL managers who've signed up to the game. It's priced at 7.5 mil, so I think it's actually quite a generous price, because I generally believed that he'd actually go up to around 8, maybe 8.5. Considering Foden's gone up to 8, I was kind of expecting him to increase as well, but I guess because of his points tally, maybe FPL has kind of been a bit generous on us for his pricing. So he played around 1,813 minutes, 106 points, 9 returns with 7 goals and 2 assists. In terms of generally how I think it's going to work, so if Sancho does come in, I've had a lot of people ask me questions on social media around his minutes he'll play. Now, I'm just giving my insight to the game. So I believe that honestly, if Sancho did come in, it won't probably impact Greenwood as much. So the way I see it is, if we get Sancho to come in with Bruno Fernandes, who'll probably go in the midfield. I think Mason Greenwood will actually kind of like, by default go further up the field. Yes, Cavani's not going to play every single minute. He's going to play the odd game here and there, but I do believe Mason Greenwood can then be utilised in a couple of different positions. So obviously midfield itself, on the right or the left, and maybe up front himself as well, because I don't believe Martial's really... Martial's been great for United, but is this a season where Mason Greenwood gets the nod and goes, do you know what? Ollie's going to say, I'm going to give him a chance. So maybe for me, for 7.5 mil for a player who's going to play for United, who is an attacking team, even if he doesn't play week in, week out, along with Diego Jota, for me, if I compared the two, I think Mason Greenwood will be actually better value for money this season for FPL managers and returns in terms of what we're paying for him and in terms of what he can deliver in terms of points that you receive for your team. So the next player from the same team is going to be Luke Shaw. Now, FPL has been extremely generous for me in regards to the pricing of Luke Shaw. He's had a phenomenal Euros so far, and I think generally he had a great season last season, easily by far his best season. Not only points wise, but generally performances wise. He was number one choice, pretty much nailed on to play every single game. Was rotated for a couple of games due to obviously the pile up of games of other competitions, and the last part of the season it became a bit overly packed and United's kind of focused more along the Europa League. But for me, at 5.5 mil, I kind of expected him to be 6 mil at minimum. And, I wouldn't have been surprised if they put him up to 6.5, because you had it previously with players like Alonso, Aspilicueta, in similar positions who've done well in previous seasons, and FPL have rewarded, the player, but if not, kind of cost the managers an extra, half a mil or an additional mil for the performances they've put in. But for 5.5, I think this is a really good value. Pretty much nailed on to play every single game. But if you look at his points per game, he's got 4.21. Now, for a defender, I think that's a really good stat with 1 goal and 5 assists. He does take free kicks, he does take corners, and he's usually involved in most of the attacking moves for Manchester United. So Luke Shaw is on the radar for many managers as well. He's got 33% ownership already. So from me, I can clearly see he's one of the highest owned defenders, if not the highest owned defender at present for all the managers that have signed up. So that's a really good choice and a real good value defender to consider. It depends. It doesn't matter what formation you play, whether it's a 3-4-3, 4-4-2, 4-3-3 or a 3-5-2. I think Luke Shaw pretty much can be nailed on to pretty much 100% of starting 11 players. And let's go to our 8th player on the list, and that is going to be Leicester City's Kelechi Iheanacho. Now, Kelechi Iheanacho had a fantastic end to the season last season. He was actually getting involved with the goals, a couple of assists. His points per game was absolutely ridiculous in the last couple of games at the end of the season. He kind of carried, if that's the right word to use, the forward line, because Vardy didn't really perform that well near the end of the season. But Iheanacho generally raised his game and kind of really caught the eye of many FPL managers, including myself. Have I considered him in my drafts? I have indeed. I'm not going to lie to you, I have. Again, it depends on how Leicester set up this season, because last season he kind of came in by default and no choice of, kind of like Brendan Rodgers, due to injuries to Maddison, and he had injuries to Harvey Barnes for long-term periods, so he kind of had to change his formation. Usually it used to be 1 striker up front, but they kind of went to 2 strikers, and it worked really well. So are they going to consider that same ethos? Are they going to rotate between him and Vardy? I'm not kind of sure how Brendan Rodgers is going to set up, but he's definitely worth considering for the price. At 7.5 mil, I think that's extremely generous. And the points he got was 110 points last season. But if you look at his points per game, this is where you're going to really catch your eyes. It's 6.83, so that's the highest I've just mentioned in these whole players that I've listed so far. So it shows that when he does come on, he's a really impactful player. So if you're looking for a 3rd striker or even your 2nd striker, he's actually not a bad choice whatsoever. So I think he's definitely worth considering. 12 goals, 2 assists, which means he has contributed to 14 overall got returns to the Leicester team, and he's got 18 bonus points. That really stood out for me. So not only is he scoring goals, he's actually having the impact on the game to get bonus points as well. And they've got some really good fixtures at the start. So they've got Wolves, West Ham, Norwich, Man City, Brighton, and Burnley and Crystal Palace in the first 7 games. So I think, it's worth trying him. Let's see how Leicester City fare out. And if he doesn't get played, you can always look at alternatives such as Ollie Watkins, Antonio, maybe even CalvertLewin at $500,000, a bit more. You have these players available to you for you to review and maybe select if you feel that you want to change him out because he's not getting the minutes that you anticipated. So that's why I've brought him into my best value players, because I think he's actually really delivered at the end part of the last season. If you can continue that form, 7.5 mil up front, you've done yourself a really good bargain indeed. At number 9, we're going to get Dominic CalvertLewin. So let's get his stats up. So he got 165 points last season. 8 mil is his price this season. I kind of expected him to be around 8.5, maybe even 9, because I'm comparing him to players like Werner. Now, Werner didn't play that great last season. Yes, FPL point of view, he's actually not done that bad, but he missed so many chances, and he's priced a mil more. So if you look at it from comparatively, I think this is a really good value. With Benitez coming in, he can only improve. Dominic CalvertLewin, maybe he'll be more intrusive in more goals, but he had 22 goal contributions or assists last season, 165 points, pretty much played every single game, barring if he was injured, and he's pretty much nailed on to play. He got 165 points, but if we look at his points per game, he got 5.15. He had an absolute miracle start to the season. Pretty much everyone got him into his team, and he had around 60% of ownership at one point. That's why already 28% of managers have selected him in their squads and drafts. And for me, I think with Benitez coming in, it's kind of like enhancing his game. And I think, if they get more additions in their kind of midfield to help him out, they've already got players such as Sigurdsson, James Rodriguez, Decore, Iwobi. Then it can only kind of help assist him get more goals and assists. He got 165 points last season. I think he can better that this season. If we look at their fixtures, Everton have some really generous fixtures in the first 6 game weeks. Hardly any red or cherry red. A couple of greens, a couple of greys. So it'd be worth seeing, especially in the first 4 games. They've got Southampton, Leeds, Brighton, Burnley, and Norwich and Villa in their first 6 games. So I could actually see him getting off to a similar start to last season this FPL campaign. And last but not least, I don't have much stats in terms of FPL to kind of go through why I believe he's best value at the moment, but from what I've seen last season and what I've heard from other people who watch the Championship, because I personally don't watch the Championship as much. I follow the scores, but if you ask me if I watched it week in, week out, not really here and there, I probably will tune in. It's Ivan Toney. So he's already selected by 38% of managers, 6.5 mil. Now, what makes him special? So in terms of Ivan Toney, he scored the most goals in the Championship last season. I think it was 33, and he got 8 assists as well. So in regards to that, if you honestly ask me, I don't think he'll replicate that into the Fantasy Premier League. If he does, that'd be a fantastic achievement, because scoring, even 20 goals in a Premier League campaign is a huge achievement. So what makes him catch my eye and why I believe he's a good value, or one of the best value players at the moment, is firstly, he's going to get regular minutes. He's the main striker at the club of Brentford. In addition, usually clubs who come up for the first time have generally a good first season. So if you look at previous examples of Bournemouth, you also had Watford. You've also had last season, in terms of existing teams that have come up and stayed. We had Sheffield United, we had Brighton that have come up and had a good first season. So there's always teams that do come up and they kind of perform well if you look at their first year in. But then after that, we kind of get the second season syndrome. But he's also on penalties, so he's a set piece taker. And I don't think he'll miss many games. So that's why he kind of for me, is a really good kind of budget value and a best value as well to have up front. So even if you play 4-3-3, you can have a premium like a Kane, a DCL at 8 mil, and then Ivan Toney at 6.5. So it's a nice little spread of your funds across your front line. So that's why I've chosen Toney in my best value players. Obviously, we need to see more of him and gather some data around how he will do in terms of points per game and moving forward in the season. So that's my video, guys, for the best value or top 10 best value players of the game so far. What are your thoughts? Have I discussed the players that you are looking for at the moment, or you're considering in your drafts? Have I not talked about someone you have got on your radar? Let me know. Drop me some comments in the comments section and I'll do my best to assist you. In regards to general other questions or other inquiries about players who you'd like to bring in, let me know. I'll do my best to help you out. The fixtures are on the left. Once again, remember, guys, Friday the 13th of August is when that league kicks off. So please do get your draft in. Before that, the league code is at the bottom. Join the FPL League if you haven't joined yet. Let's make it competitive and let's have a really good campaign this season. My social media is below in terms of YouTube, Twitter and Instagram. You can contact me on any of the platforms. And in regards to, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button, help me grow the channel. Hit that like button and hit that notification bell to get the latest notifications. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'll see you guys soon.